a great occasion to talk to the decision makers, public policy makers on geospatial guidelines. And after that, we had some internal meetings with our industry leaders where we exchange our views and set our priorities, what kind of recommendations we want to submit to the authorities for implementation plan. Now we go to user interaction sessions. The purpose of user interaction session is that users are, as we were discussing in the meeting with secretary as well, where he outlined that there is a need for having a kind of uh, sectoral geospatial strategy, so that major departments of the government of India can develop their strategies which can help them to leverage the geospatial guidelines, which can help them to develop their strategies to improve their productivity, efficiency, and programs, and transform their projects using geospatial technology. I think ultimately everything what we do is for the users, and we'll be extending our user base in discussions in coming weeks. But to begin with, we invited a few very important users, which are in the federal government, uh, who can help us, uh, you know, understand their excitement as well as their interpretations of this policy, and what do they expect from the industry after these guidelines, because most of the time users and industry have not been able to work very closely because of the fact that the guideline or the geospatial policies have served as a bottleneck. And in that backdrop, I think the user interaction session is very, very important. Uh, I have to say that some of the users who would committed to spend time with us are not yet with us. They've not been able to make it. Some of them are on online. Mr. Suresh Prabhu has not been able to make it today. We just received a call by 4 o'clock. For some reasons, he could not make it. But the reason I wanted to share with you why I chose to invite to him was the fact that Mr. Prabhu led a little bit of debate about geospatial policies in 2002 when he was the chairman of Interlinking of Rivers. And that's the time when uh, he was denied the data from Survey of India as a user, and then he went to higher ups. And then I remember 3rd of May 2003, KJ Ramesh can corroborate that there was a meeting in the highest level with 3 ministers and 3 secretaries. Well, that was probably not enough, I guess, to get the new policy done, and it needed a much more political will, I believe so, and that's how we took. I'm just telling you that that was also a momentum when we were almost about to get a very favorable geospatial policy. A highest level meeting took place, but somewhere we missed that opportunity, and then it took almost 17 more years to get to that level. So I just thought that I will, invite him to, but he agreed and he could not make it today. Another thing which is important in his role is he's the Sherpa of G7 and G20. And I wanted to bring to your attention that, in fact, G20 and G7 both have recognized the use of geospatial technology for sustainable development. And we just missed the opportunity because of COVID. Otherwise, in Saudi Arabia, when G20 was taking place, there was a geospatial World Congress to be part of G20, sessions, and so those were the things which were in my mind to invite him, and I will keep on talking to him and motivating him to take more interest in this direction. Uh, Moving forward, I would like to request my old time friend, not old friend, but old time friend, KJ Ramesh, who is the former DGIMT. But before being in DGIMT, he was a part of the Department of Science and Technology, and and now he is responsible for offering us better air in the year 2021. He is the member of the National Commission on Air Quality Management of Delhi NCR region, which has been constituted by the Supreme Court, I guess.
Thank you, Sanjay, and good afternoon to all esteemed colleagues. And this has been a phenomenal transformation that has happened by opening up of the geospatial data services, geospatial data generation, access, and applications, etc. and you all know ins and outs of those policies. But first beneficiary of this will be the disaster management, and making basis for action and disaster response actions has to come from geospatial maps. So we generate forecasts of heavy rainfall, cyclone impact, and cyclone landfall, etc. So beyond the landfall, we are not able to map them on the coastline up to what level water is likely to go, because you need a contour of at least 0.5 meter or 1 meter to start with, up to 20-meter contour in the coastline. And similarly, on the bathymetry side, also you need at least 500 meters, now 10 meters map. 10 meters bathymetry will become available for daily access. At the moment, we are all using USGS related coastal geometry, whether it is a topography or the bathymetry, to try out our applications and feeling. So with the opening up of the policy, at least whatever data is available with the National Hydrographic Office, for example, for bathymetry. So that was never accessible to anybody. At least now that becomes accessible in whatever form, in a usable form that has to come out. So that is the new area of opportunity for disaster management. Once you know, and then we have been using, at least in the absence of all this after the prediction, we used to have OpenStreet maps only, just to overlay the envelope of water volume which is likely to come from the storm surge, etc. And then see what are the areas, low-lying areas which is available on that Google map, and see that what are the bridges which will not be operational during that time, what is the safe relief routing, etc. All that approximation we were doing it. But now it becomes very easy, at least from Rakesh ji, good resolution maps, street maps will become available now. So now 3D GIS is another opportunity for coastal zone, that is data is generated but not being made available for the public use. At least the coastal setback line was drawn. In river mouths, it has gone up to 20 kilometers in depth. The high resolution data is available. So in the back end, we should stitch at least 1:25,000 or 1:50,000 for having total analysis. So for the real time, this is the immediate opportunity, whatever becomes available. NRSC is another agency, most of the products will become available for building, mapping the impact of extreme weather events. That will be very quickly possible opportunity, and that should become into a reality. Next thing is risk. Risk maps are available in isolation. They are not interacting with the real-time maps. When you forecast something, so what is the existing risk of the region itself? They are separately computed and available in a discrete form, but they are never integrated. So this becomes an opportunity to integrate risk and as well as the new extreme event impact to be overlaid. Once this risk and likely impact are connected, so then warning becomes more effective. Risk is high means impact will be much more. So all that quantification of the impact will become possible with WebGIS interface, and in coastal areas 3D GIS data which is already generated will come to the open domain to build those applications. And in new areas like hills, for example, states have computed, like Uttarakhand State Remote Sensing Center has computed slope stabilities of many of those vulnerable slopes, but they don't have link with the rainfall prediction. They don't have link with possible seismic activity that is happening, and weakening the slope already happening. So now the seismic data, rainfall data, and the slope stability data computed from different sources can be integrated and made use of. So opportunities are pretty many, but disaster management will be the first beneficiary. And whatever data with whatever agency, in whatever form they are available, once they are notified through metadata, I think people will be able to access and build their own applications for better utilization of at least safety aspect of disaster management can be addressed. And next comes to the asset loss minimization. Infrastructure loss, whatever we have built so far, that should become sustainable, and future infrastructure got to be located and constructed hazard resilient, multi-hazard resilient infrastructure got to be built for the future. So where the engineering solution of retrofitting got to be mapped with the geospatial information, and there that's where the city development or the coastal area development, because with the sea level rise, coastal erosion is taking place somewhere and coastal accretion is taking place somewhere. We have maps, at least the last 15 years, coastal erosion maps, accretion maps are generated. Wherever port area getting eroded, some engineering solutions are built and beach is restored. Pondicherry is one of the examples in recent years. Beach lost was totally restored by an engineering solution. So that's where special effort was made to generate that Pondicherry scale data. And now digitization is possible. Anybody can generate new data. And that helps for building a solution on the case-to-case basis. So that's where the infrastructure losses for the future got to be minimized. That knowledge also insights and the safe development opportunities also have to come from the geospatial knowledge and the geospatial scenario development, I should call it that way. So that is the safety of lives which we have achieved to the larger extent. Now, loss of minimization of the asset and infrastructure, lifeline infrastructure which we have built got to be sustainable, and future investments on infrastructure development got to be totally safe. So even the World Economic Forum report of 2020, you can clearly say out of the 6 risks which are identified by them affecting the global economy, 6 of them are related to weather, climate, environment, and air quality. So all these things with data and data analytics and then big data and then artificial intelligence, all these new knowledge tools will enhance the accelerated knowledge generation for action in times to come. And India was lagging behind in this particular endeavor to generate our own solutions and our own prescriptions for the global consumption. So now we will not be lagging behind anymore. I feel that it is a great opportunity. In 2-3 years' time, we should be able to catching up with most of the other developers worlds in terms of mapping the impacts and quantifying the risks and building a safer society for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh, for sharing so many applications which are possible with better, geospatial, data which is going to be available more and more. And you've been using USGS and OpenStreetMaps, which they have made a lot of data available. In fact, and they are one of the great examples of open data, initiatives. Is there any comment anybody want to offer on this or any questions? We can actually be more informal questions as interactions as well. If there's anyone wants to make any comment on this before I go to the next speaker.
Yes, I have one query. What kind of challenges do you face getting data from other government departments? I mean, we talked about
a lot of other departments producing all these coastal data and other kind of data products. What kind of challenge? Did they never give it to you, or what happened? Never asked for it?
No. To a larger extent, Survey of India shared most of the required applications. WGS started only a couple of years, 3 years before in India Meteorological Department for that matter. And whatever support was required, that was provided by Survey of India with whatever they can share. But NH4 was impossible to get anything despite the step. But we need a lot of socio-economic data for mapping the density of population, or where bridges are there, where power transmission networks are there, where telecommunication towers are there, which are in the track of crossing cyclone, etc. And those informations, even with the design strengths of different capacity towers, were shared with us by the state governments, even telecommunication companies. So on crop area, what kind of crop and what level, what stage of that crop is there to assess the damages. So all that is there, except we had a problem in accounting the coastal bathymetry for storm surge computation. Except that, most of the information in whatever form, centimeter or something, is available to build the application. Application now are there. If finer data becomes available in the backend, computations will become more defined and more.
My question was, there's a lot of talk about the new policy about government able to share data with other departments without any cost. I'm just trying to understand that in the past, did you actually face this
No,
challenge?
we never paid anything to anybody.
And they were able to share the data with you,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So just 2 points I'd like to just strengthen what Sir said. This is specifically with respect to, say, in areas like Panjim, and we've seen disasters, the calamities, the way it's struck. Now, we're having this Taraban project. It's a massive project, about, I think, 11,000 crore plus project. Now, identifying the right alignments is very important. And the land side mapping and vulnerability analysis is a very, very important thing. Because what happens in this area is that there are two types of problems that you face. One is, this is a real challenge. And the second challenge is a perceived challenge with the contractors or even the public users to extract money out of government. Especially going and filing a PIL in Supreme Court that, because this road is being made, so something has happened, you cannot develop, they want us to. So here, the way the landslides are taking place, what is the timeline of the landslide, what is the nature of landslide, whether it's actually happening because of the road construction or it was happening before. These are very critical for the government, especially because of the widening of the road that is going to take place. And otherwise also because there are some alignments which people are just stuck to despite them having a huge problem. So where can we use technology to identify new alignments so that the terminal problems of the roads getting blocked for long periods of time is sorted out? And much more important from a national security perspective, because if you see the alignment of roads on the Chinese side, they are parallel to the border. So for him to redeploy from one sector, one valley to the other is very easy. Whereas our ranges are almost at a 90 degree or 80 degree to the alignment of the border. So if you want to move from one valley to the other, it could be taking a few days, and the bridges are not available to you. The roads are challenged because of landslide. It has a huge logistics problem. So in effect, the liberalization that is happening can actually be used to create good maps which actually will strengthen national security. So this is a very good example which we have a lot of seniors here who have been into this field can use this opportunity to create good value-added products. And having been associated with the highway sector for some time, I can say that right now the knowledge is zero. That's what
Technical institutions, whatever knowledge residing there is not interfaced with public data which is available. So that's what will have to happen. I think institutions like Body Institute of Knowledge, there are forests, everybody has their own.
In fact, sir, if I may put it this way, if you look at the boards, there are hardly any scientific papers which are based on data. But now with this happening, we expect that good quality research will be available for the ministries to know.
At least people have to share data. They cannot say that, it's not possible because of the policy. The PSI has always been saying that, forget about standards, formats, everything, that's later. First mandate that everybody should share the data, whatever they have. Don't give them another 5 years in the name of standards and formats. So, thank you very much. With this, I would like to go to Mr. Sanjay Marwaha, who is joining us. He is the member, Central Groundwater Board. Sanjay ji, can you listen to us?
Surely, thank you. Am I audible?
Can you be louder, please?
Am I audible now?
No.
I hope. Can you hear me?
We can hear you when you are very close to the microphone, right? Tarun, can we please?
Probably closer to.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably quite close to the microphone.
It's already full.
So maybe संजय जी एक मिनट रुक जाइए मैं अपनी टीम को बोलता हूँ आपको दोबारा से they will put in the call. Just check with Tarun on him with his system that how the audio is because you're not audible. So my team Tarun will get in touch with you and I'll call you again in 5-7 minutes.
Done. I'll wait for it.
I think, Tarun, just look into this technically, whatever is possible, more
Sure.
creativity or whatever it is.
नहीं वो उनके साइड से ऑडियो आ ही नहीं रहा है. लेट मी चेक दैट.
With this, I would like to request Mr. Ambar Dubey, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Civil Aviation. He is a user as well as he is also the custodian of the kind of Indian policies. And a lot of us have been talking about the policies with regard to drones and all in terms of the flight, and things like that. Probably we can have a lot of interactions with him.
Thank you so much, Namaskar, and we try and keep it very interactive. Otherwise, शाम के 5 बजे 5:30 बजे this can be very boring if a babu gets going on the achievements of the government. So I'll just finish off in like 5-10 minutes, and then we'll make it more interactive. And now, how do I start? By the way, I'm not just a customer; I'm also a seller. So we sell drones. So now with this great reform on the geospatial policy, I hope there'll be many, many more drones flying. So you are also my esteemed customers. I'm more of a service provider and a sevak out there to help you guys if there's any policy blockage, at least in the flying part, because now that the aerial mapping is almost completely liberalized, you don't need to now stand in a queue and keep waiting and waiting for months at the end for approvals. You also don't need to come to, there was a separate requirement where you had to come to DRI. There's a department of some regulations and information or something, and supply stuff in some 7 forms, and 7 forms will go to 7 different agencies, and then keep waiting for those approvals. All that nonsense is gone. So very happy. Also see Rakesh Verma ji, we fortunately not titles together in कल कोर्ट केस भी चल रहा है, सरकार के खिलाफ अभी हटा दिया है, अभी चल रहा है कोर्ट केस. The MOD, MH है, सबको लपेट लिया है उसमें, तो बढ़िया. Just चाइना में होते कब तक शायद इनकी फोटो रख गई होती माला के साथ. जैक मा, माँ भी नहीं जानती जैक मा कहाँ है. So this is the beauty of this great country that, of course, we had disagreements between Verma ji and some of the esteemed colleagues on the government side, and then different people spoke to him, understood his problems, and ultimately the Honorable PM had a meeting with him and assured him that yes, things will be done. And then I think it took barely a month from that. No, Verma ji, month from that, 2 months from that point, and lots of good things happened. We've been part of many of these very, very heated debates at Niti Aayog, and a lot of good people, well-meaning people. I won't say there are people in the uniform or people in the intelligence agencies. They're also doing a fantastic job. That's why we're sitting so peacefully around some बैठे हैं यहाँ पर कोई डर नहीं कि अभी बम यहाँ से फटेगा या वहाँ से फटेगा और रास्ते में जाएंगे तो कोई मिसाइल तो नहीं आ जाएगी या वो इनका इलाका है या उनका इलाका है. So बच के निकलना. So somebody out there, both the men in uniform and those without the uniform, on the intelligence side, undercover, a lot of people are working very hard to keep us and our families safe. So I won't say they're doing anything wrong. It's just that sometimes the pace of technology is so high that sometimes we're still stuck in that phase where we feel कि अगर मैं ये पानी की बोतल यहाँ रख दूँगा तो ये national security risk हो जाएगा, ये होगा, वो होगा. And then the same information or the same पानी is available free of cost outside. So then you find कि बहुत ज़्यादा restriction डालने से you're only hurting Verma ji and various other Indians, and somebody out there with a fair skin, Gora, is the one who's actually laughing all the way to the bank using our data, our knowledge, our information, our people, our jobs, our dollars. Okay, so thankfully with this change it will happen, and there are many more reforms which are on the angle. I'll not talk much about geospatial because that's a subject I just don't understand. I'm the least knowledgeable person in this room. So I'll take more of suggestions and ideas where how do you capture geospatial, and within that I'm on the drone side. So if there's any issue between drones and geospatial and data collection and flight permissions, because of course the policy also is very clear that there's certain no-go areas. So if it's a military cantonment, you can't just do a survey there, okay? Because also there are some safety distances from those security areas, 3 kilometers somewhere, 5 kilometers somewhere else. So that nobody, in the name of the so-called liberal policy, goes and misuses things. And as you know, I come from the aviation background, so here You can bring down a 777, a big jumbo, or just a small bird. A bird would be 2 kilo, 5 kilo, ज़्यादा 6-7 kilo की bird. You can bring down a whole damn Boeing 777, which would be say maybe 400 tons. 400 tons is like 40 trucks flying together in the air. 40 trucks, fully laden, and that can be brought down by a bird. So that's how sensitive an aircraft is. Even a mischievous guy who can just get a small swarm drone going, and a small drone, even a 250 gram drone, not 10 kilo drone. Just a 250 gram drone can go stick to an aircraft and have a tiny charge that just opens up the skin of the aircraft. The whole aircraft will be brought down because the sheer pressure and temperature difference between what's inside the cabin and outside the cabin. So these are the risks which aviation is a very sensitive area, and that's why we have so many restrictions. But then what has to happen will happen. So that does not give us the reason to stop innovation, because if we do this, as I said, somebody else will always gain. Okay. So quickly coming down to the drone part, over the last 1.5 years, we've tried to move as fast as we could. Unfortunately, we can never keep pace with all our youngsters, these young entrepreneurs who do drones. Okay, some of them are sitting smiling. Okay, so the pace at which technology and innovation and these entrepreneurs are moving, we are actually struggling to catch up, because every time we come up with a damn law, we find the law has already become redundant. Okay, and there are things which are overriding. So then again, we have to take a leapfrog and do things. So the drones rules 2021 is about to come. 31st March, we put an internal deadline. Inshallah, we should get there. Okay, because we are in the last bit of little powwow with our friends from the law ministry. उनके साथ हमारा बड़ा प्यारा सा संबंध है. So संधि जीजा वाला है, जो भी बड़े भी कॉल है जी वाले लड़का वाला. So कुछ जाता है फिर लौट के आ जाता है, फिर कुछ जाता है फिर लौट के आता है. मेरे को रख लो उसको, करा दो, दे दो. मेरे मम्मी, मेरे पापा कर दो, मान जाओ. So करते करते finally we reached that stage where I think now it's down to the English version is all okay. Now the Hindi version is just undergoing some minor changes. Hopefully, inshallah, by 31st March it should be done. There's an unmanned traffic management policy also, because we didn't wait for the rules to come, because from the rules, that's some other rules, from the rules then there'll come lots of guidelines based on various chapters of the policy. So one of them is actually traffic management. In fact, all the permissions that you take is primarily about traffic management. How do you ensure that there is no clash between two unmanned, manned and unmanned? No, definitely not between manned aircraft. So उसकी भी UTM policy now, that is very different, because that cannot be given to airport authority, because they deal with things which fly at 30,000 feet, and then they bring them down to 0 feet preferably on a runway. So our aircraft fly all over the place. They're like helicopters, anytime, any place, from anywhere to anywhere. So that's why they add an immense amount of risk, and managing them is a very complex job. So they're the chairperson of that so-called UTM policy committee. So there are 10 people who are maybe 100 times more knowledgeable and intelligent, both from the uniformed forces, intelligence agencies, and our air traffic control people who are working on the UTM policy. We had the draft come out in November. Got lots of, I think, some 800 plus good suggestions. We've taken many of those suggestions, and right now the team is actually working as we speak on the framework. And we don't call it a policy, because policies generally, once you come up with the policy, to stay. As I mentioned, within 2 months of the policy coming out, will become redundant. So with this kind of a pace of change, okay, we are just calling it maybe version 1.2, because 1.2 automatically, just like your Apple phone or whatever, Samsung, will keep coming up with version 1.2, 1.5, and then 2.0, 2.3. Okay, then we have a digital sky platform, which is the dream, that it will be a single window system where you don't have to come to MOCA, DGCA, Airport Authority, the military, MHA, MOD, all those 3-letter, 4-letter, 2-letter agencies. Okay, and you can actually just come online to a system. It should be on the phone itself. Hopefully, again, by 31st March, we should be out with our first phase launches before 31st March. People are working very hard. I hope that happens before time and we don't cut a sorry figure. Then on UI, we have this unique identification number which is given to each drone. Very complex process. When I took it over in Jan of last year, 2020, I learned that there are many UI applications which take in 6, 7, 8, 9 months. कुशागर आपको कितना टाइम लगा? आपको UI मिला? कितने?
Depends on your volumes.
Travel bike.
How many UIs do you have?
300.
Many UIs.
UIs is 3 or 4.
3 or 4. कितना टाइम लगा उसको मिलने में?
Customer dependent है. Customers को
2
2 months.
नहीं, 2 months is too fast. you got your numbers wrong. इतने efficient लोग हैं तो अभी जाके भी party दे देता है. It takes, it used to take 7 to 8 months. कुछ तूने तो हमें एक साल पूरा हुआ, हमने बोले तो 2 ही महीने हुए, बोले सर ईयर भी तो देख लो 2019 में. देख अपना भी आपका भी बोले ना 2 महीने पहले भी हुआ है, वो कहीं ऐसा ना हो कि 14 महीने पहले हुआ. ठीक है, साल देख लेना उसमें. So anyway, whenever a system evolves, it takes time, and as I said, since this issue, drones, I don't want to. Because see, every day, I mean not every day, but every now and then we hear about very ghastly pictures on our borders, okay, where some of our brave brothers from BSF and the army and other people are shooting down drones literally every month, and I can't exactly disclose the number, name, and all that. But these are all, I mean, Jammu mein pakad rahe hain, kabhi Rajasthan mein, kabhi Punjab mein, kabhi all over the place, also on the northeastern border also. So it is a very touchy subject, road security and national security. So because of this UN drama, we finally came up with a simpler system. Because citizens who can't keep them as operated 9 months checking the drones, that whatever is required should be done. But we came up with a simpler self-assessment. Aajkal aap dekho Modi sahab, the PM sahab keeps talking about believing our citizens and self-certification, self-assessment, self-declaration, trust them. And then somebody misuses the trust, then since you are sitting idle because अब तो कुछ करना ही नहीं, सभी ने अपना self assessment करके अपना income tax भर दिया, so now हम खाली बैठे हुए. So now we can actually do some real intelligent analytics and go after people who are misusing the trust of the system and cheating the system and stealing from the nation. उनको फिर आप मारिए अच्छे से, मतलब बिल्कुल proper, जैसे सऊदी अरेबिया हुआ chop square types वैसा. So that is the right model where you keep rules simple, trust your people. Those who break the trust, then you go hard on them, rather than treating everybody as a crook unless proved right. And then इतना टाइम हम उनके एक के आदमी के असेसमेंट पे लगा देते हैं कि जो एक्चुअल crook का तो दूर से देख के हंस रहा है, और उसने अपनी कोई सेटिंग सुल्ताना जैसे बोलते हैं, उसने अपनी सेटिंग कर ली, सुल्तान लिया, तो उसको कभी कुछ नहीं मिला. और जो शरीफ आदमी वो राशन कार्ड, पासपोर्ट या आधार कार्ड बनाने भाग रहा. So all these things, you're seeing it around yourself, things are changing. So we came up with the Dan principles. Instead of 10 months, now you get this in exactly 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Okay, where you just go online. If you have all your simple Aadhaar card, वो सबको आपके सब फोन पे होता है. तो आधार कार्ड और आपके पास पासपोर्ट, two out of those 3 ID cards if you have, and the drone की कोई फोटो ले लीजिए, front view, top view और उसका जो serial number उसकी फोटो आप लगा दीजिए और you get a Dan without any involvement of any government official. Okay, it's based on a self-assessment system. In fact, I can't even see what you've built. It's a closed box. Only 2 people in this whole country have access to that. If I need it for some parliament question that we get, I write to those persons, and they in turn then open up the data and give us the state-wise data, year data, month-wise data, whatever data. Even I don't have access to that data as a Sarkari babu. So that's how closed box that system is. But it gives you in 10 to 12 minutes if you have all your documents ready. It's called the DAN. That is the PAN, we give you a DAN, drone acknowledgement number. Then we have this concept of green zone, where we found that एक फ्लाइट एक अप्रूवल लेने के बजाय भाई आप सिर्फ अपना स्पेसिफिक एरिया बता दो ना. किसी को जैसे झारखंड में कोई माइनिंग करे, अब कोई कोल इंडिया के, अभी भी कोल इंडिया के मेरे साथ आज चलो जय श्री राम. सो आपको अगर जहां करना आप उसका हमें वो कोऑर्डिनेट्स भेज दिए, KML फाइल या जियोजेसन फाइल भेज दीजिए, उसको we send it to our colleagues in NHAIB, MOD and couple of other places, और within 2 to 3 weeks we get the approval, और उसके बाद आप अंदर बढ़ाइए. बजाय इसके कि इंडिविजुअल फ्लाइट्स की परमिशन ले, फ्लाइट्स की तो वैसे भी आपको परमिशन लेनी पड़ेगी, बट वो सिस्टम बड़ा फास्ट हो जाता है. We came up with this concept of green zones. Right now in the country, we have 32 green zones all across the country. And because उससे पहले we were struggling with our brothers and sisters in the NHA and other agencies, because we wanted a red zone map. हमसे कहते भाई आप red zone का हमें बता दो, वो no-go areas हैं, और वहाँ पर हमारे drones नहीं उड़ेंगे, और बाकी सब जगह उसको green कर दो, या कुछ sensitive areas जो less sensitive उनको yellow कर दीजिए, तो थोड़ा सा permission वगैरह लेके we can allow our drones to fly. So, but that red zone, even showing the red zone on a map, somehow there's a lot of sensitivity. I'm sure just like this geospatial issue, I think that red zone में भी क्या, वही राष्ट्रपति भवन, वही मथुरा रिफाइनरी, वही दिल्ली cantonment. And so I said we make it interactive. I got into a typical Babu mode and started sharing. You have to stop me wherever you feel it's getting boring or. ऐसा ना हो कि वो सब ऐसे ही आत्मा हो जाए. Okay, so this green zone is very important because this is I'm only touching issues that are linked to geospatial. So अब क्या बताएं, थोड़ा सा है mindset issue since we are all amongst mostly Indians here कि अब राष्ट्रपति भवन में क्या हम छुपा रहे हैं. तो वर्मा जी फिर हंस रहे हैं देख के मंद मंद मास्क के पीछे पर्दे के पीछे पर्दे के पीछे क्या सब दिख रहा है, सब आप हटा दो ना, हटाइए, कोरोना ना हो गए सब खत्म, वो कोरोना. So where was I? So this green zone concept is, so we said instead of waiting forever for those red zone maps and there are lots, there is some sensitivity around those places. Even though the same friends outside the room tell us कि सर सब कुछ जो है ना यार, चाइना और पाकिस्तान है, कहते हैं ले में हमारी एक एक ट्रक का एक नंबर पढ़ लेते हैं. जब वो एक एक ट्रक का एक नंबर पढ़ लेते हैं तो क्या है मतलब, but then there is a sensitivity and we respect our brothers and sisters on the other side. So we said ठीक है, तो फिर then the compromise we worked out was क्या green zone का अप्रूवल ले लीजिए कि भाई जहां आपको भाई पूरे हिंदुस्तान तोड़ना नहीं, तो एक एक चप्पे चप्पे का अप्रूवल लेने के बजाय जहां माइनिंग होना है, एग्रीकल्चर मोड़ना है, आपको कोई एनएचआई को रोड बनाना है, किसी इंडियन ऑयल को पाइपलाइन बनाना है या एग्जिस्टिंग पाइपलाइन का वो उसकी मैपिंग करनी है या रेलवे से कुछ ट्रैक टेस्टिंग करनी है, तो आप उसका वो जोन की वो हमें वे पॉइंट्स या जो कि उसके कोऑर्डिनेट्स वो आप हमें दे दीजिए, उसका हम अप्रूवल आपको दे देंगे. देयर इज नो सेंसिटिव साइट अराउंड and then you can fly as much as you want. So those are the things we're working on. So from 6 zones we have taken it to 32 zones, 32 zones, and then we have a next lot which is gone to MHA and MOD for clearance. Hopefully that should also come out in the next 2 weeks. Very quickly, just rushing through my points, another problem which our drone people face was that इसके quality certification हो सकता है, labs, testing, ये वो, etc. Now BGC people are see, they are used to mostly dealing with manned aircraft, the Indigos and Lufthansa's, Emirates, etc. अब वो suddenly ये छोटे-छोटे ये 250 ग्राम का ड्रोन, 2 किलो का ड्रोन, 5 किलो का ड्रोन, they're not used to all this, and they're not quite so ठीक है. You put some officers in charge, they'll study, they'll read, and that's why it's taking time. But चूंकि इसके तरह dangerous इसके वो हैं implications, इसलिए और डर जाते थे. तो मैं it's very easy saying कि भाई बाबू काम नहीं करता, लेकिन that बाबू is also, and if something God forbid goes wrong, and the drone is found in a sensitive area, you're doing something even out of good intentions, unintentionally you may make a mistake, enter into a no-go area. Ultimately, even the Babu who's cleared his file will and nobody will come to support it at that time. It's your mistake, pay for it. So then we have outsourced that. So with great difficulty, we've outsourced to Quality Council of India, QCI, and they have been given a mandate to certify drones. Because if you go straight to QCI, go to the website, and they in turn have empaneled more certification agencies. We call them CB, certification bodies. Tata TQ Cert, Tata Quality, Hyderabad was one of the first ones. I think UL and some more agencies will also come in. So we are taking the government out of it. We are saying we'll play the role of an umpire. We will not either be batsman, bowler, or wicketkeeper. आप जाइए इंडस्ट्री में अपना आपस में ही बात करिए, आपके सर्टिफिकेट जो सेम ISO 9000 और ISO 14000 दुनिया भर के दे रहे हैं, तो they are the best experts. उन्हीं से डील करिए, उनकी फीस पे करिए, काम करिए और आगे बढ़िए, तो देश का भला करिए. Then we have also had the drone school, because a lot of people said कि भाई ये ड्रोन ऐसे ही उड़ रहे हैं, इनको सिखाता कौन है? ट्रक ड्राइवर होते हैं ना, वो वही जो क्लीनर है वही ड्राइवर, साल भर बाद वही ड्राइवर बन जाता है. ठीक है, जब वो ढाबे में खाना खा रहा है या अपना कुछ इंटरेस्टिंग लिक्विड्स पी रहा है, तो तब तक उसका एक कुंदरू या क्या उसको छोटू या चेतन या whatever you call it, वो घूम के चलाता और उसी से उसको बड़ी आसानी से लाइसेंस उसको मिल जाता है, पता नहीं कैसे, बट मिल जाता है. ठीक है, बहुत यहाँ पर हमारे बड़े स्मार्ट और इनोवेटिव लोग हैं इस देश में. सो सेम थिंग विद ड्रोन्स. अब ये शादी वाले ड्रोन्स हैं, वो दूल्हा दुल्हन की शादी हो रही थी, ट्रेजेडी हो गई, तो उसको प्रिवेंट दैट है. वो कहा वरमाला पास ला और थोड़ा पास ला और टप से गिर गया, उसकी बैटरी फेल हो गई, उसका कनेक्शन टूट गया या रेडियो लिंक टूट गई या जस्ट आउट ऑफ कंट्रोल, गलत चीज दब गई, कुछ भी हुआ, किसी को हानि लग गई, and that wedding event, happy event can convert into a tragedy. So anyway, this is just one of the many such issues that we face. So now in our rules, we were allowed to have the flying clubs, the flying academies, which anyway train those large aircraft with human beings sitting inside and 400 liters of fuel. We said, boss, you are the best suited to do drone training. But again, for 2 years, they kept on waiting because there's a lot of paperwork, just love letters, yahan se wahan. And the love letters were never converting into actual dating or marriage or whatever. I can take a loose example. So with a lot of, during Corona Kal, we had lots of thinking and introspection and realized this is not good here. Okay, so then we found ways to address some of those challenges that we were facing. And we said, जो आदमी ये 1.5 टन मतलब 1500 किलो 1600 किलो के drones, manned aircraft, हवा में उनको thousands of feet तक और 10-10 हजार 5-5 हजार फीट तक ले जाके 10-10 किलोमीटर का राउंड लगा के नौसिखिया बच्चों को अंदर बिठा के कर सकता है, और उसमें 500 लीटर तेल पड़ा हुआ है. 2 किलो का एक ड्रोन नहीं सिखा सकता, उड़ा सकता है. He knows all the fundamentals of flying. So, but for some reason, this was stuck. So that was also done, and by we had put a target of 15th August, 15th August last year. We should finish about at least 5 drone schools should be allowed. 5 flying academies should be allowed to do drones. You'll be surprised to hear that by 15th we have cleared 13 flying schools with all the thick paperwork that goes into all these things. So that was done. And then just rush through ये COVID में आपने देखा होगा drones को. Actually लॉर्ड कोविड की हमने सबने अपने कमरे में फोटो लगा रखी है, वो ना गोला गेंद जिसके ऊपर से कांटे निकले रहते हैं. तो we have put his photograph and put a माला, दो चार अगरबत्ती भी हम वो लगा देते हैं. Lord COVID has come like a great boon to the drone sector because I mean we were just meandering around. रिस्की है, बहुत टफ है, बहुत सिक्योरिटी और सेफ्टी और प्राइवेसी कंसर्न्स हैं. तो ये हाँ इट्स गुड टू हैव ड्रोन, हाँ गुड ठीक है, चलो जब आएगा तब देखेंगे. And suddenly came Lord COVID. उन्होंने मुस्कुराया, ठीक है, it was a tragedy, devastation. but then जैसे calamity भी तो जो आनी हमारी किस्मत में लिखा है, तो जो होना है वो होना है, अनहोनी को कोई टाल नहीं सकता. Now the key thing is there are only some countries and some groups of people or some countries, let's say, who convert a calamity into an opportunity. And I'm very proud and glad to say that India is one of those. So we अब जो होना था वो तो हो गया, वो चमगादड़ खाने वालों ने वायरस भेजा तो वो तो आ गया, ठीक है ना. अब तो वी ट्राई टू कन्वर्ट दैट कैलामिटी इनटू एन अपॉर्चुनिटी. और ये कोविड के समय आपने देखा होगा पुलिस स्टेशन में हमारे भाई लोग हैं, बगैर बाहर निकले उनको पूरी गलियों का सारा अपना नजारा घर पे बैठे ऐसी जैसे स्क्रीन पे मिल रहा उनको, ठीक है. तो बाहर जाने से फिजिकल रिस्क भी है, इन्फेक्शन का भी रिस्क है, वायलेंस का भी रिस्क है, वो सब बच गया. सिटिंग इन खाना यू कुड एक्चुअली डू एंड यू कैन यूज द ड्रोन्स टू टेक pictures, scare people into going back into the homes where they came from, or doing a wow kind of system and announcements and ये सब चीजों का बड़ा असर पड़ता है. जैसे कोई कैमरा सीसीटीवी में देखने लगे होंगे ना, वो चल रहा है कि नहीं चल रहा है, but डर लगता है यार कुछ तो देखो रिकॉर्ड करना चाहिए, ठीक है. So that had a visible impact. Then came जून में में हमारे लोकस्ट आ गए. पाकिस्तान से सिर्फ आतंकवादी नहीं आते, ये भी आते हैं, ये पंखे वाले आतंकवादी, तो ये भी पूरा खेत चाट जाते हैं. और इनके जो स्वॉर्म्स आते हैं वो 20-20 किलोमीटर लंबे हैं. These are like ना मेगा स्वॉर्म्स. They come every year. टिड्डी को आपने समझे रोज देखा होगा, हर साल देखा होगा, घर में भी देखा होगा. बट ये जो मेगा स्वॉर्म्स हैं once in 20-25 years में आते हैं. और ये I mean COVID, I don't know what was the correlation between COVID and suddenly उन्होंने कहा चलो यार इंडिया घूम के आते हैं, बहुत दिन हो गए. So these mega swarms came to India, and May we got that warning. There's very serious meetings at the CAPSEC level, and I still remember the day 27th we were told just unleash everything that is there, from helicopters to ground equipment to drones to whatever. And I think in 9 days we could actually issue work orders. May and June की beginning में we could issue work orders to about 5 drone companies. Certainly various parts, कोई भुवनेश्वर में है, कोई कोचिन में है, कोई नागपुर में है, कोई दिल्ली में है. और वो कोई कह रहा है मेरा पायलट की वहाँ फंसा कंटेनमेंट में, कोई कह रहा है मेरा ड्रोन यहाँ, मेरा पायलट वहाँ, मेरा टेक्नीशियन यहाँ. All that was managed. Now none of these things you'll ever read in the press, but all this was done at the peak of May end and June beginning. I still remember 6 June we issued the work orders. Okay, nobody had ever seen these drone companies. All based on conversation. Just imagine trusting the citizen. Okay, so we had the details about the drone companies. Just we went into negotiation mode, fixed up a particular time, and we closed it. Okay, and by 9th of June, most of these drone companies were actually how they were moved from across the country to Rajasthan is a separate story some other day, but it was done. And last but not the least, we also have the Swamitwa scheme, as you've seen, one of the biggest flagship schemes of the Prime Minister, and इसमें drones, Panchayati Raj, Survey of India, village volunteers, I mean, Patwari, the state, the local revenue officials. It's a massive operations of yard shapes में हो रहा है. And this is like a revolution because इसके बाद आपको कोई झगड़ा नहीं होगा, दो भाइयों में दर्जनों जमीन पे बहुत लड़ाइयाँ होती, वो भी सब खत्म. ओके, और अभी आपने देखा आर्मी ने भी अभी एक टेंडर दिया है, which is one of the largest orders, 140 crore. अब ड्रोन्स की इतनी हालत खराब थी कि इनको तो मतलब 2-5 करोड़ भी कभी मिल जाए तो बिल्कुल वो गंगा नहाए या वो माता वैष्णो देवी चले जाते थे माथा टेकने. बट from 5-10 crores now on to 140 crores. And the Army Design Bureau, the head had just come to our ministry 2 days back, and he said if this experiment goes well, and this drone company actually beat 3-4 very large Indian companies and one very famous Israeli company, okay, to win that contract. So all this is happening, all about geospatial, aerial mapping, snooping, okay, doing lots of good things for our military on the borders. We also have this conditional exemption model, just in case you require an urgent need to do something, and in fact, whole India का जो है conditional exemption ही हो रहा है, because अभी भी हमारा, as I said, digital sky platform बन रहा है, but time लगेगा. और उसमें भी जो हम ग्रीन जोन से धीरे धीरे पॉपुलेट कर रहे हैं, बट जो स्पेशली गवर्नमेंट एजेंसीज है, जैसे ये हमारे रेलवेज, हाईवेज, पाइपलाइंस, पावर ट्रांसमिशन टावर्स को आपको सर्वे करना, टेलीफोन लाइंस का करना, इसमें we go out of the way, we immediately put a nodal officer with you and try and because the conditional exemption can only be given by our honorable minister, so it goes all the way to the minister's office and gets scrutinized, and finally if he approves, you get your exemption, and then we work with you, with the airport authority, with Air Force to get all the next level of ground level flight permissions. And I think that's about it. I just rattled off like a Tufan mail. I mean, there are just too many things which are happening. I mean, industry and government is working very closely together. This whole artificial ki hum babu, we again and again told we are public servants. They are the public, you are the servant. Sometimes you forget that. You think that we are the kings and you are the subjects. So all those mindsets are now gradually breaking. We are all one nation, and it was a very unfortunate incident on the Garwan Valley, okay, where 20 of our brothers were killed. But I think that itself has galvanized, brought new sentiment in this country that the shit that has gone on for so many decades now has to end. All of us have to work together. This whole government, public, private, 4G, non-4G, uniform, non-uniform, these are all artificial. वो आपने उनकी पीएम साहब की भी स्पीच देखी होगी, सब हिंदुस्तानी अगर और सब योद्धा हैं, कोई यूनिफॉर्म पहन रहा है, कोई बिना यूनिफॉर्म के और कोई सिविल ड्रेस में. So we are all working to make this country a better place. We've done whatever we had to do. Now we are working to make it better for our next generation. Okay, they'll come and take it to the next level. I'll stop here and then let's make it a little interactive. Otherwise, it can get really boring. Thank you, Jay.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dubey. It was a great overview of all the policy reforms and how the experience, the whole experience of what are the principles behind these policy reforms, what is driving these policy reforms. And that's what we were saying before lunch, before this meeting as well, that there is a momentum on technology adoption and policy reforms, trusting Indian citizens, making them part of, like Prime Minister's speech in the Lok Sabha was great booster to the whole, commercial sector, that, got to trust the private companies, and that coming from him with so much strong, mandate, he spoke like very strongly about that trusting the people. And that is visible into self-attestation, which we talked about, even in Geospatial guidelines, there is a self-attestation, there is a control number which you talked about this as well. There's so much reform going on, and of course, public policy is a response to the innovation, so it always takes more time because it is responsible to understand the market interface and the scalability of applications and implications. So public policy is more of a response to the innovation, and it takes more time. And as he said, that once somebody who has to do this has to really get convinced that yes, I'm signing these papers and I stand by those implications and positivity around this. So we'll take some more questions from the audience before we get into those, because I know that a lot of people like to talk to the roles. I will have just one more small statement from Sanjay ji, who we were not able to hear from him earlier. Sanjay ji, please go ahead.
Am I audible now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks, Tarun, first for making the technical issues over. Should I continue?
Yeah, please go ahead, sir.
Right. I'm from Central Groundwater Board, and as far as the groundwater informations we collect from Government of India side at Central Groundwater Board, we are already releasing most of the information on the web through, there is a now NWIC is there in the WARI system. Anybody wants to log in, they can get download whatever information already is there. It's already in the geospatial domain. Rather, what work we initially were doing is already it was in the geospatial domain, and it was pretty easily accessible. Along with the water level, we have the water quality data also, groundwater quality data also, which is now uploaded, and only thing the data which is quite validated and then finally confirmed, and it is getting uploaded into the website. Another information which we normally posted is in the form of the aquifer mapping, which we are doing across the country on the various areas in the country. These are in the form of the reports, which is there in the Groundwater Board website. And for large part of the India, the management solutions are there. Wherever we thought of that the groundwater is getting depleted. We need management interventions. We need the supply side or the demand side. If the water is available, it can be stored in somewhere, and those locations can be located on the ground itself. And we generally have obviously lat long and Z. For you people, Z is up. I mean elevation. For we, Z is down. That is the groundwater. Uh, I don't know. I was reading the documents where it indicated the 3 meter interval. So I presume it is for the altitude and vertical. Because vertical is groundwater is also. I really, I mean, compliment the policy shift, which has been, I mean, in the now public domain. This data will be easily I mean, accessible for us also. I mean, we want to include the IMD data or the rainfall, I mean, and other any data from Google download, and we can do our analysis wherever and whatsoever we want it. Some of the things which we can do on geospatial, because everything we need on the background side only, we probably will be working some of the things which are already there. The identification of the potential areas for recharge, or the areas where the demand for water is higher, and where which areas can be identified for agriculture, diversification of the crops. We have indicated, and all these things are in the public domain. One thing I'm not very sure how we are going to deal with it is because we want some herringbone data. I was very pleased to listen from the previous speaker, who was I mean very nice in stating about the drones and their utility as far as the now country is concerned. I'm now venturing into the herringbone surveys from the groundwater investigations for identification of the aquifers where it is not easily manually accessible, or I mean these and if in case even though accessible, the faster way of getting it done rather than the manual, which we need to do it on foot or on the ground with these studies. Obviously, these herringbone studies need to be complemented by the groundwater investigation. Ground truths also, ground truthing is must, and we will be doing those things also. Some of the things I like to flag at this particular point, that we probably need, I mean, the OGC compliant things. I think because they have not been directly referred to in the document, maybe because open source, some or other may converge to OGC as the things go further. It will be nice in case we can have some high resolution 10 data for especially for Pakistan that can be made more open also. Say having a resolution of 5 meter or whatever it is. Obviously, in the terrains which have landslide histories, this data also will come very handy. I think with this short note, thank you all for giving the opportunity to concentrate on what to express here.
Thank you very much, Sanjay ji. You brought about the the vertical accuracy below the ground, and actually also makes me think about what happens to the mapping of critical assets underground infrastructure. Most of the underground infrastructure is a very valuable critical asset for the like any kind of electric utility and other pipelines, drainage. All that is part of very important assets. So what does this policy talks about GPR service down below. Thank you very much. With this, I would like to request you to take share your questions to Sanjay ji or as well as Amber. Those who are operating into the drone space or those who are in the geospatial industry who has any questions to Amber Dubey or wants to supplement a statement on it. No?
You gave the example of those locusts. What was It's the utilization of drones. No, it wasn't effective, the use of drones.
Of course, we paid money, we paid your taxes to those people. So, is there a sarcasm hidden in that question?
I am just curious.
Or a curiosity? They were finished. So in fact, we wanted to extend the drone, but then Agri Ministry said they are not required. So it was, in fact, disappointing. You were enjoying the game. You should catch them napping because they're just too upset. अच्छा हो गई सभी थक गए हैं जैसे मुझे कभी वैसे भी मिनिस्ट्री में जाना ही वापस सब फन सो इनका ये फंडा ये होता है इनको रात में मारना होता है बिकॉज है ना ये 8 बजे तक तो राजस्थान में गर्मी हो मैंने बताया मई जून में तो हम लोग 10 मिनट नहीं खड़े हो सकते सन में एंड इन दैट टाइम वी वर टोल्ड कि आपको 8 बजे तक मार लिया तो मार लिया 8 बजे सब पंख सूख जाते हैं तो पोस्ट से are there people who understand Hindi here or should we पता चला यहीं पे कोई रीजनल इशू हिंदी इशू शुरू हो गया है मार्केट में ओके हिंदी imposition so yeah so with dew their wings get wet so they are a little less mobile and by 8 a.m. or 8:30 they dry off and then they fly and once they fly this bloody drone this bloody grasshopper teddy locust whatever they can fly 125 kilometers in a day imagine 125 you and I cannot I think except for some very fit people, but most of us cannot travel even 10 kilometers in the desert. Okay, or leave alone flying, even walking is impossible. Just 10 kilometers. These fly 100 to 150 kilometers. Okay, so you have to kill them while they're sleeping, catch them napping. Otherwise, once they're gone, they're gone. Number two, this bloody locust, it eats 250% of his body weight. This is मेरी knowledge मैंने अपने सब कृषि वाले भाइयों से सीखा है कृषि भवन में. Why is this such a dangerous creation of God? 250% of the body weight. मैं बता रहा हूँ अगर research shows that even if you keep you hungry for like 7 days continuous, okay, वो नॉर्थ कोरिया में करते हैं ऐसा कई बार. So they keep you hungry for 7 days in a, and then we put some nice छप्पन भोग शादी का stuff in front of you. We challenge you to eat more than 450 grams. You can't eat because beyond that it will start puking even if you eat too much. Okay, so 450 grams would be, I mean, even if you are 80 kilos, so 80 kilos, 8 kilos, 10%, 0.8 kilos is 1%. You can't even eat 0.05% of the body weight, even if you are super hungry. Now, this drone is anyway well fed, okay, in the Rajasthan grain and all that, and it eats 250% of its body weight. It's not protein. That's why it can fly 150 kilometers. And then the breeding is far better than Indians. Okay, so while we create an Australia every year with some 2 crores added to our population every year, okay, these guys multiply every 3 months. So if you don't go kill the mummy, she'll create 300 daughters. And the 300 daughters will create, you can keep on doing the geometric progression. Of course, she'll create both babas and babies both. So whatever that number is, it's very dangerous. So you have to kill the mama. Okay, because otherwise 3 months later you have to spend 300 more times the pesticide and drones and all that. So it's that scary. Okay. And so we started about June and June, July we did it. And after that, in August, we were told not required any further because we had told these guys to be prepared for a long haul, 3 months, 4 months. We don't know. And we were also see this is a global phenomenon. So they track all the way from the Horn of Africa to the West Asia to Pakistan, Afghanistan, and then coming to Balochistan is the main breeding ground. And then, so their wheat crop was spoiled. Thankfully, they finished them earlier before coming to Rajasthan. And by the time they came to June, so anyway, हमारी वो March, April में तो गेहूं की फसल सब कट चुकी होती है. So we were lucky. God was on our side. Okay, Pakistan it was a national emergency because not only they lost because of COVID, and on top of that, this very COVID year, the locusts decided to come via Balochistan. So their entire wheat crop and cotton and lots of other things were finished. So that's why it's so critical. Anyway, cutting a long story short. So we unleashed the helicopters from the Air Force, from civilian, from the drones, and then the ground-based equipment. Because drones, why drones are very important? Because just like a war, it's like a war. War में क्या होगा ना आपको pistol और कट्टा और कुकुरी से लेकर, you need those guns and artillery guns and tanks and right up to aircraft carriers. Okay, so just like that, this was a war. So we need everything to be unleashed because there are certain places because of the undulating land, far away from the highways, or because of whatever terrain problems, you can't just take a tractor trolley. They're slow. So you can't just take them there to the actual spot. दूसरा, what about the tree top? Because many of the लोग बबूल कीकर के उस जो वहाँ पे डेजर्ट में पेड़ होते हैं, उसके पेड़ पे जाके पूरा का पूरा पेड़ पूरा ग्रीन हो जाता है. मतलब ग्रीन पेड़ को depending on whether it's a pink locust or a green locust, various types of locusts, the entire trees, if you show you photographs, it's scary. The entire tree becomes brown. because there's a whole millions of drones lying there. For us, it was actually a good thing. So वो ground vehicles वहाँ पेड़ के ऊपर तक तो नहीं उतना spray कर पाते थे. So we could use drones to do pinpointed killing, and then you could see all the dead bodies. It was a very friendly, very nice sight. It's also a great source of protein because, as I said, they eat 250 grams. That much protein they carry. और हमारे वेस्ट में और अफगानिस्तान और ये बलूचिस्तान में तो it's actually sold as a live they actually made a titti biryani also. I've seen YouTube videos of India में थोड़ा सा भी take time to graduate with that. So cutting a long story short, it was good fun. But you were told October, November again, we got some FAO and UNO warnings that be ready. There could be some swarm. It's a very unpredictable swarm. It's not like the birds which anyway come to Bharatpur for nesting. So they have it's a very inexact science. So you just keep tracking their locust control organizations, LCO all across the world, and they track. So we were told that October, November, ready, but thankfully it didn't come. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Prashant and Saurabh. You please. You can go ahead.
So basic question of that. What kind of market size are we expecting from drone business in the next 5 years?
As a consultant, I would love to take fees from you and give you an answer. But only the thing I can tell you is any number you hear, usko bas pakad ke aise phada ke na nearest dustbin mein dal dena. Because anybody who claims that he can actually tell you the size of the drone business, whether it will be 1 lakh drones or 10 lakh drones, way off the mark. It is unpredictable. Because this will be almost like mobile. Because my wife was in the mobile industry for like almost 20-25 years now. And वो किसी ज़माने में Vodafone का they used to think कि वो कहीं पर जाके 100 million का एक size आएगा इंडिया का और उसका हम 20% तो minimum होना चाहिए 20 million. That और देखते 8-9 साल में that 100 million became a billion plus. So we don't know if our drone industry, and I keep we have a Dronacharya group, and I keep ragging these youngsters who are like some 30 years junior to me from my same college. उनको भी we keep on ragging them and saying कि boss आप कुछ ऐसा बनाओ बिल्कुल robust, बिल्कुल ये geo model type, geo indigo type. You know, every villager, I mean village में देखो कि ना वो अगर बलजीत ने ट्रैक्टर लिया तो मंजीत को भी लेना है. So if that is the sort of environment we have the villages, you know, the neighborhood Joneses, keeping up with the Joneses or keeping up with the Baljeet and Manjeet. So drones में भी ऐसी कुछ करो ना और बजाय वो तो 5-10 लाख के ड्रोन हुआ आते हैं ट्रैक्टर्स तो आप उसको एरियल अगर सिर्फ फोटोग्राफी करनी है तो 5,000-6,000 ऐसा रोबस्ट रबिडाइज्ड ड्रोन तो गर्मी ठंड बरसात बारिश हो गई धूल मिट्टी चली गई इसलिए रबिडाइज्ड ड्रोन तो अगर ड्रोन 10,000 रुपए में भी आता है तो 10,000 anybody can afford even 5 farmers can get together then there is a drone as a survey DAS as we call it okay where somebody from the village area itself or some youngsters can who get trained properly and they see the value of this and they can work with the insurers with the seed companies with insurance companies all kinds of stuff. You can even do a predictive calculation of what the maize price or soya prices this year would be, depending on just the color of the flower or the size of the seed or the soil. I mean, there are people who have no knowledge of agriculture, but there are people who can just look at these photographs and the color and the size, and they can, by their native wisdom or because of the research they've done, they can actually predict and this has been going on in the US for the last 30 years. They've used GIS, I'm told, GIS mapping and geospatial data to predict the price of corn and wheat. And there are times when thousands of acres of wheat fields are burned because the field, I think there's a bumper crop in China, bumper crop somewhere in Brazil or whatever, and the prices will crash. So burn it, okay? So that the price, and then will compensate you and use the land for doing something else. So I'm told this used to be done by CIA, not by It's still being done by CIA. So now you can imagine how closely intertwined agriculture, global geopolitics, global domination of US, all that is managed. So I think better late than ever. Now we are waking up. Coming back to your original question, anybody who tells you anything about the drone, so this will evolve. The pace of evolution is so fast, the use cases are so many that we can't even predict what all places it will be used in. And literally one day everybody will have a drone, or maybe 5 drones. So India की population को 1 drone से multiply कर दी, that's rough size और price उसका है कि 10,000 रुपए से लेकर 10 लाख रुपए अभी सब such a massive range. अब कहाँ fit करो? अब crores के भी drones आ रहे हैं, some of those very costly drones are just being bought by army. So 10,000 से लेकर 10 करोड़ तक के drones हैं, अब कहाँ पर आप क्या averaging करोगे? So anybody who tells you about the drone size is actually pulling a fast one. Be beware of consultants.
Sir, thank you for insight about UAVs because generally this geospatial domain is bit reluctant in understanding and adapting GeoVs as of now, understanding the policies gap, and I hope now they will be more recognizing the technology. So the second thing which comes in because of this opening of data policy, now more and more number of people are going to use drones, and thus more number of requests are going to come to your office for providing the sanctions and approval for. So how are we prepared for this? How fast we can expect the sanctions of permissions to fly?
ऑनलाइन there's no other option ऑनलाइन पासपोर्ट पहले कैसे याद है जो वो भीखा जी कामा पे बूढ़े बच्चे बूढ़े और जवान पहने यंग इंडिया और खड़े रहे लाइन में लंबा लंबा और सब गर्मी धूप जाड़ा बरसात आप खड़े रहे फिर वो खिड़कियों में हाथ घुसा रहे लड़ रहे एक दूसरे की बॉडी बॉर्डर छीन रहे हो तो मतलब all kinds of drama. I mean, I last Friday I just went for my son's this thing. I was out in half an hour and I didn't go with I stood in the queue like any other person with my kid and it was all over in 30-35 minutes. Already WhatsApp आने शुरू हो गए and this was not even a तत्काल normal passport. So cutting a long story short, this passport, which is the most sensitive document, can be given to you in a matter of just half an hour, 45 minutes. You're out and I'm told already printing has started and chunki it's just a renewal, so there's no police verification also required. So probably in a week, maybe maximum in 10 days of a passport. So those of us, I mean, those who have less hair or white hair, okay, my generation people, they've gone through that Dika Dikama drama. So I think that's the future. We have to just do the same thing in drones. I mean, make it online, believe in self-certification, self-declaration. As I said, even today, right now, you can actually test my words. You can go on the phone, apply for a DAN, put up Katrina Kaif's photo. You will actually still get a DAN. ये बात दूसरी है कि maybe at a time and place of our choosing, because once it's logged in a system, as I said, even I don't have access to that data. So if you put Mahatma Gandhi's photo as Kushagra's photo, okay, you will still get a DAN. But then sooner or later, I mean, because you've given a false declaration under oath to the government, now you are our prisoner. You are आप हमारे चंगुल में. जब चाहे, जैसे चाहे, there are 100 laws which I can apply for giving false declaration to the government on a self-assessment trust basis. And there's an undertaking which you give that any false information, I'll be liable to all the actions. So then why are you worried? You still get a DAN. That's the fun part. Right?
Not only about them, but the permission to fly.
Permission to fly, देखिए बहुत sensitive है because as I said, every week or every month we are catching drones on the borders. Okay. और यहाँ क्या है? दिल्ली में भी हो सकता है drug trafficking, money trafficking, arms trafficking, all kinds of trafficking. अरे एक ड्रग्स में क्या होता है? 50 ग्राम के ड्रग्स में you will become a करोड़पति. ये सब ये रोड में काम करने की जरूरत ही नहीं है आपको. ठीक है ना? Do 5 drug deliveries in House Khas or Lajpat Nagar and you're good for that. Okay, 5 पुस्तकों का कुछ कोई मेहनत नहीं करनी पड़ेगी. ये सब पढ़ाई लिखाई मेहनत 9 to 5. So see, we are living in a situation where this technology has huge benefits. वो कहते हैं जैसे चाकू की तरह, चाकू से खाना भी बनता है, गले भी कटते हैं. ठीक है ना? तो it is one of those छुरी type technologies, huge benefits and huge risks. So ऑनलाइन ही करना है तो अभी हमने गवर्नमेंट सिस्टम से शुरू किया, जैसे कोल इंडिया है, इंडियन ऑयल है, ये इंडियन रेलवे, इनको ही thousands and thousands of crores. इनको तो बहुत जल्दी कर रहे हैं. उसमें भी हमें कोल इंडिया के मित्र मिले थे अभी चाय पी के समय, कह रहे यार जल्दी करवाओ यार. तो हमने हाथ जोड़ के माफी मांगी, हमने कहा नहीं सॉरी टाइम लग रहा है. हम सरप्राइज कोल इंडिया तो इतना दूर है, शहर से दूर, वहाँ दूर दूर तक कोई नेवल या कोई एयरफोर्स स्टेशन या कोई ऐसा आर्मी का कोई बेस नहीं है. तो इनको बोला मैंने कि आप थोड़ा डिटेल्स दीजिए, पता करता हूँ. कोई हमारे मित्र होंगे, कोई भाई लोग जो थोड़ा सा किंतु परंतु, इसको केपैम जैसे स्पैम होता है ना ईमेल में, हम उसको केपैम बोलते हैं, किंतु परंतु अगर मगर. तो किंतु परंतु अगर मगर करके किसी तरह की कुशाग्र काम डिले करा दो, ठीक है. और अभी हमारी वीकली क्लास भी लगती है. सेक्रेटरी साहब है करोड़ा साहब, प्रदीप करोड़ा साहब माय बॉस, एंड अभी पिछले हफ्ते हम लोग खूब क्लास लगी. मतलब यहाँ तक हो गया था कि किसी को गलती से बुला लिया पर इंटरेक्शन बिकॉज हम कोई डेटा में गड़बड़ थी, उसी में क्लास लग गई. आपने बुलाया कैसे? कोई नहीं बुलाया, किसी को दिल्ली नहीं आना. क्योंकि see we all know that है ना, the famous story of 81-82 में the famous Dr. Narayan Murthy came to this glorious city 49 times. Can you believe it? Narayan Murthy came 49 times to Delhi to get approval to import 2 bloody IBM PCs. वो बड़े-बड़े जो होते हैं आज तक कोई छुएगा नहीं डब्बा ऐसा बड़ा सा. 2 IBM PCs के अप्रूवल के लिए उसको 49 times. Didn't have money. So फाइलियो सुधा मूर्ति जी जो है आज सब वो 7-10 हजार करोड़ 20 हजार करोड़ उनकी नेटवर्क होगी. That's a separate issue. But उनके भी गहने उस पे रख के he used to come to this city to meet some babu somewhere who then send him to this directorate or that department or this ministry or that ministry. ये sensitive है, इसका तो military implication है. वही जैसे and we laugh because यही discussion आज से 40 साल पहले PCs के साथ हो रहा था. तो PC आ जाता है ना, Amazon पे जाके टक 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 2 बार ऐसे ऑनलाइन कर दो तो अभी शाम तक जब तक आप घर पहुंचो तब तक घर भी पहुंच जाए, थैंक यू भी बोलेगा. इसके लिए 49 times he came. went through the frustration. He just never gave up, and that's why God finally smiled on him. Wife के गहने तक जेवर को गिरने लगे. तो अभी तो आप कौन सा 49 टाइम्स आप दिल्ली आए हो, ठीक है ना, और कौन सा आपसे कोई मिल रहा है, कौन सा आपसे कह रहा है कि वाइफ के गहने उस पे रखो. इनफैक्ट एज आई सेड लास्ट वीक इटसेल्फ किसी गलती से यूनिवर्सिटी को हमने बुला लिया था, हमारे कुछ भाई लोगों ने कुछ डिस्कस करने के लिए. अब यूनिवर्सिटी से कुछ कमाई भी नहीं होती, ठीक है ना. सो यूनिवर्सिटी को गलती से बुलाए तो प्रोफेसर साहब आ गए. वो कलाम साहब के भक्त थे, मतलब वो अंडर प्रोफेसर कलाम, प्रेसिडेंट कलाम आल्सो. एंड I mean, some of our colleagues got a real hiding, okay, कि आपकी हिम्मत कैसी हो. ऐसा क्या था जो उन्होंने दिल्ली आके आपको बताया जो आप ईमेल, व्हाट्सएप या वीडियो कॉन्फ्रेंस नहीं पता कर सकते. So this is the new India, and my secretary is about to retire, so he's 59 years old. He's not a young person. So this is the sort of culture change which is happening. कि even if we call someone, अब ये जैसे लोकस का था, मैंने बताया 5 कंपनीज को 25 लाख के 5 टेंडर हमने दिए हैं. घर पे बैठे लोग ने इनकी शक्ल नहीं देखी थी. कृषि भवन में लोग कहते हैं सर सैटरडे के दिन आप हमसे वर्क ऑर्डर इश्यू करवा रहे हो, हमने उनकी फेस भी नहीं देखा. हमने आपको देखना क्या, मैं आपको दिखाया तो आपको फोटो कटरीना जी की या रणवीर सिंह की फोटो दिखाते, आपको क्या करना उस फोटो से. वो रणवीर जैसे देखता है, अमिताभ जैसा क्या करना उससे. दिस इज द न्यू कल्चर. 25 लाख के विदाउट अ टेंडर. नहीं तो आपको बोलते हैं सर 10 रुपए की बोतल भी जो है ना ये प्रोक्योरमेंट से आएगी सरकार. नहीं तो क्या सीएजी, सीवीसी, कोर्ट्स एंड सीआईसी एटसेट्रा. सो दिस इज द न्यू इंडिया वेयर lakhs and crores of contracts are being given, okay, based on simple submission of self-assessment documents. So coming back to your original question, yes, for the private sector to get a free-flying drone, even Indigo and SpiceJet, before every flight, 2 hours before that flight, they file the flight plan. And उनका बड़ा fixed flight plan होता है कि तो highways बने हुए जिसमें से वो 10 मीटर की इधर-उधर नहीं उड़ सकते, नहीं तो पंगा हो जाए. ठीक है, and they take off from Delhi and land at Hyderabad airport. Even their origin and destination are fixed. We cannot compare that with a drone, which can take off from anywhere, anytime, at any height, go anywhere. And who can track? ठीक है, so इसलिए थोड़ा सा टाइम लगेगा. Thank you.
Anybody else has any question? So, sir, aerial mapping, आपने बात की, aerial mapping is also going to be democratized. Like that is not about the drone heights. So, what are the provisions for improving the aerial mapping? Honestly.
फिर उसमें अब तो बड़ा सिंपल हो गया ना. अब तो आपको डीआरआई के पास आने हमारा कोई रोल ही नहीं. हम सिर्फ फ्लाइट परमिशन देते हैं. नाउ आवर रोल इज रेस्ट्रिक्टेड ओनली टू फ्लाइट परमिशंस, ताकि जो कोई मैन्ड एयरक्राफ्ट पास जा रहा है, हेलीकॉप्टर्स हैं, मिलिट्री की कोई सॉर्टीज हैं, तो हमारा जो सिविलियन एटीसी और एयरफोर्स का एटीसी दे वर्क वेरी क्लोज. एंड सर्टेन एरियाज वेयर नेवी कमांड, सो लाइक वाइजैक इज अ नेवल, गोवा इज अ नेवल एयरपोर्ट. ओके, सो जहां पर जिसको अथॉरिटी सोवरेन राइट्स दी है, कहीं पर नेवी, एयरफोर्स और एचएएल, और जैसे बैंगलोर बेगमपेट इज एचएएल, बेगमपेट इज एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी, इट्स एयरपोर्ट अथॉरिटी. एचएएल एयरपोर्ट इन बैंगलोर इज एचएएल टर्मिनल. कल मैं नासिक जा रहा हूँ, नासिक इज एन एचएएल एयरपोर्ट. सो जहां पर जिसको भी वो राइट्स और अथॉरिटी वो दिया हुआ है, उनके साथ आपको कोऑर्डिनेट करना पड़ता है. सो बस दैट्स ऑल. वो तो रेगुलर फ्लाइट्स और रेगुलर हेलीकॉप्टर और रेगुलर प्राइवेट जेट को भी करना पड़ेगा. एक बार आपने फ्लाइट परमिशन ले ली और आपका रास्ता उन्होंने बिल्कुल क्लियर आपके लिए चॉक आउट कर दिया कि आपका ये फ्लाइट पाथ है, आप शॉक से उड़िए और खींचिए फोटो. क्या 1 मीटर प्लस 1 मीटर माइनस सब खत्म हो.
So as per this new geospatial guidelines, I think only permission which aerial company needs is from DGC, I guess, for flying permissions.
Only the flight path, which region you're flying in, so that it doesn't put you in a risk. एक तो कि दूसरा कोई अनमैन्ड या मैन्ड एयरक्राफ्ट उड़ रहा, और दूसरा ये कि यू मे जस्ट meander, if you don't know, you may meander into some very sensitive military area unknowingly. मतलब आप कहेंगे मतलब खाया पिया कुछ नहीं, गिलास थोड़ा बाहर आना, हमें क्या लेना देना. बट वो आपका ड्रोन पकड़ लिया, किसी ने उसको डाउन कर दिया, कुछ काउंटर ड्रोन मेजर्स करके सॉफ्ट के लिए हार्ड किल करके उसको उतार दिया, और फिर आपके घर पहुंच. जैसे अभी एक बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग कार मिली है बड़े इंटरेस्टिंग बिजनेसमैन के घर के बाहर, देख ले क्या हो रहा है. अब whether that person is I don't want to talk about that incident, but as I said, we don't want you to get caught in a. मतलब आप तो रिसर्च कर रहे हैं और आप फंस गए लफड़े में कि वो ये तो बड़े सेंसिटिव एरिया में न्यूक्लियर सेंटर था या कुछ ऐसा था या कुछ ऐसी अननोन प्लेस थी, उसके ऊपर से ये ड्रोन पाया गया. आप फिर भाई मैं तो कर रहा हूँ माइनिंग के लिए या कोई एग्रीकल्चर या माइनिंग या किसी और रोड बनाना है मुझे इंडियन उसके लिए एनएचआई के लिए, और अननेसेसरी आपका हैरेसमेंट हो रहा. तो वो तो जब तक एजेंसीज डोंट गेट कंप्लीटली सैटिस्फाइड दैट यू एक्चुअली क्लीन, they'll give you that nice treatment. So It's in your interest that you take proper permission, and DGC and Airport Authority anyway they are bound to do that. And अगर किसी एरिया में काफी आपको उड़ने जैसे टाटा स्टील है तो टाटा स्टील को तो एक ही अगर ड्रोन अपने टाटा स्टील में उड़ाना है they can just get the green zone certification just apply to us we'll work with the उसको भी हम ऑनलाइन अच्छा हाँ good that you asked that question. So एक e-सहज करके हमारा डेटाबेस e-सहज which is an online system जिसके तहत हम है ना ये लोगों का बैकग्राउंड चेक करते हैं जैसे some 4 lakh people have been given airport entry passes इतने from pilot से लेकर engineer से लेकर जो आपके loader से लेकर जो वांगो और जो मैकडोनल्ड में जो खाना बना रहा है वो सबको anybody who enters the airport gets a proper airport entry pass with all those nice alphabets you would have seen so which allow you to go into immigration or this or that or cargo hold or whatever so that data, all those checks are done through e-सहज, which is an electronic system. As a company, you can go put in the details of all your employees, and within 4 weeks or 6 weeks, they do some background checks, and you get your airport entry pass with that. So we are putting, trying to. In fact, that's a good idea which came from various meetings, MOD and MHA, that you put airspace approvals also in e-सहज, so that this whole chitti, patri, chasing mails. अच्छा क्या होता है कि MH and MOD में lots of places don't even have internet or emails. Okay, I mean surprise, but that's the way it is by design. That many of those offices and rooms and those corridors are completely there's no electronic network, no LAN, no internet, no Wi-Fi. Okay, so अब क्या करें? अब वो कहीं print ले रहे हैं, फिर यहाँ आ रहे हैं, फिर उससे approval हर चीज पेपर में चलती है. So they said भाई आप इसको online ही कर दो. So through some secure systems we can get the airspace also cleared. ऑनलाइन तो अभी हम ईमेल्स के माध्यम से करते हैं सारे हम इंडस्ट्री से मंगा लेते हैं भाई आपको जहां उड़ना है मैं भेज दूं जब भी हमारा 20-25 का लॉट हो जाता है तो दैट वी सेंड इट टू एमएचए एंड एमओडी अब वो कह रहे हैं इसको भी अब ऑनलाइन तो उसका भी हम एनआईसी के साथ मिलकर वी ट्राइंग टू चेंज द ई-सहज सिस्टम उसमें वी क्रिएट अ सेपरेट ऑप्शन फॉर अपलोडिंग योर whichever area of mines or agriculture area or whatever area your factory your steel plant or cement plant या कोई highway which you want to prospect. Okay, you can put your the KML file or whatever the waypoints and you go through the normal process 4 weeks में अगर आपके लिए अप्रूव हो गया तो सबके लिए अप्रूव हो गया. This is the other beauty. That is not just an exclusive thing for Kushagar because भाई अगर कोई चीज ग्रीन है जहाँ पर कोई रिस्क नहीं तो आपके लिए भी ग्रीन है पूरे हिंदुस्तान के लिए ग्रीन है तो effectively you will be doing everybody a favor. but उसमें ये है कि some people are very smart they say सर स्टार्ट कर दो उधर रहने दो तो मतलब ये तो very funny thing ना कि मैंने अप्लाई किया तो मेरा so that will not get approved. So अगर कोई रोड सबके लिए है तो वो रोड सार्वजनिक रोड है सर.
Yes, Raj.
Is it so in aerial flying? The difference between drones and aerial flying that I see is aerial flying is regulated by the APCs and all that kind of stuff. And MOD has already told that you don't have to come for us for any permissions. I think as per the new guidelines, you can just go ahead and fly. So now it comes to DGCA because the ATC won't allow you to fly.
Let me just clarify. MOD cannot say just go fly.
No, sorry. They didn't say go fly. They just said that you don't have to come to us for any more approvals. Now, as per the new guidelines, you don't have to come to us for any approvals. So the next thing that we'll have to do is come to DGCA and say, sir, come in. What do we do now? Because ATC needs somebody to instruct him to allow us. And like any manned flying, we actually every day we give our flight plans and all this. The NOTAMs are applied for earlier. And in such a scenario, is the green zone and all thing will that still be applicable? I don't think because it's as far as the.
Let me clarify. I think good that you asked that question. See, this policy doesn't give a free for all to anybody to fly anywhere. I'm being repetitive because I just explained in great detail, so I'll have to now I'll keep it short. There are still no-go areas. It clearly says that even I can't even enter into my colleague's home, okay? Because I think the policy is very clear that where you can't enter by foot, I can't enter into his house without his permission into his house. So how can I take over aerial photography outside his house? So where you can't enter by land, you can't enter by the aerial route or naval route or this route or that. Okay, so that be very, very clear. I think somewhere in our euphoria we have missed out some very important nuances and it's where mahino right? So I can't just enter into anybody's asset. Wherever I enter, it has to be Tata Steel. I can't just fly over Tata Steel and start mapping Tata Steel. I can even do industrial espionage. I can keep a track. Suppose I'm a car manufacturer, I'm Maruti, I can keep a track on what Hyundai is doing by just keeping a drone flying, not even over Hyundai. I can always take an oblique photograph, right? I can be in the plot next to Hyundai and track every truck or every raw material truck that comes in and every finished product will go there. So let's be very clear that while on one hand we have liberalized, it means that for genuine cases, if you're doing something for Indian Oil or for whichever, for example, Reliance Petroleum, or for any damn company, doing whatever work, as long as you're doing either it's a public space which is not owned by anyone, or it's owned by someone and you've taken, for suppose a village man. So of course you have to take permission from a villager, village, panchayat, or whosoever is the owner, whether it's a written or whatever. But some permission has to be taken. And we're not going to come to you for asking for every scrap of paper, but it's just for your own protection, because tomorrow somebody should not blame you for invasion of privacy or invasion of this or invasion of or corporate espionage. Okay, we cannot allow that. So it's not free flying. It's not free flying. Wherever you fly, anything which flies in the sovereign territory of India and beyond that, even in the oceanic region, it comes under the air traffic control. Somebody will be in charge. Just reach out to us or science and technology or mining or whichever is a nodal ministry. I mean, there will be several numbers mentioned, or otherwise, sir is there. I mean, he'll know everybody, or somebody in the drone side would know. Somebody would know somebody in the system. And then we'll put a nodal officer who will help you. Suppose you want to map somewhere in Telangana, we'll put somebody who understands whether it's through drones or through a manned aircraft. Somewhere in the system, we'll know somebody who will then direct you to the right person, either in the air traffic control or DGCA or Telangana government, because also there's a local police. There could be a chief minister's visit. Now, how does an air traffic controller know that there's a chief minister's visit in that area? Of course, only the local police copy. Or suddenly you're flying drones there. People don't know whether it's a kamikaze drone or a dangerous drone or a good drone, bad drone. Nobody knows. And you unnecessarily get caught in an issue. Now, this is something which the ATC guy won't know. Now, ATC doesn't care which chief minister or which prime minister, I mean, of course, prime minister is a separate issue, but which chief minister or which VIP is going into which area. Air traffic control is least bothered. They have no knowledge. That's why when we give you an exemption, we mention all the agencies who should keep in touch with. So that is it. You are not in trouble. Sorry.
So the question basically is like, suppose it's mapping for the government of India. It's a project of mapping for the government of India, which is like 100 kilometers on the coastline. So probably it's impossible for him to go and take permissions from everyone in that area.
Just your government organization, whichever, just give a name, then it's easy. Which organization, so that we can then get more specific.
No, for a private organization, let's say a road construction.
Road construction.
And infrastructure.
But that land would have been given to you by NHA, right? They acquire the land, give it to you.
So they're just doing a DPR. I mean, there is no road yet. I mean, they're planning for a road. I mean, for all planning purposes, for example. For all planning purposes, you still have to go fly and then do all this.
And you're talking about drone, manned or unmanned?
Manned. I'm only talking about manned. I'm not talking
Manned
about
aircraft.
Yeah.
Manned aircraft will be flying at about 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
10,000 feet is very dangerous. I mean, some other drones fly 400 feet and we have problems.
Yeah.
You're talking about 10,000 feet with so many aircraft, or helicopters.
That's
So
why I was
that
thinking.
will go through a proper approval process. You'll apply to airport authority. They'll issue you a particular date, time, the flight path, all that.
No, all that is there, sir. I mean, so we are actually a flying company, so we do this regularly. That's
Right. You have an NSOP here.
Yeah, we have an NSOP and all this.
Okay.
So now with this new guidelines, so earlier the process was you would go to MOD, get
So
the
let me again clarify for the third time, sir, flying part is still DGCA. Science and technology cannot say, okay, fly whatever. MOD cannot say fly.
No, I'm not saying that, sir.
We are talking
For
about
flying.
two parts. This flying, this photography. Photography completely deregulated. Flying definitely not deregulated.
Correct.
It is not deregulated.
Correct. So now I have an area.
Even in US, which is the most liberal country, or Europe, you still have to call up the local ATC because there could be hobby flying, ballooning, aerosports, there could be any damn thing which you are not aware of, which may not even be visible to the naked eye, and suddenly you come in front and back.
Agreed. So there is a city, Thiruvananthapuram, they want to build a road, they've given us the project, we want to fly. MOD says, don't ask us, as per the new thing, you're free to do what you want to do. We go to the ATC.
Very wrong information. If you give me the name, I can
No.
to some of my friends in
Okay.
MOD.
I'm paraphrasing, please don't take it.
Right. Wrong information. Giving you wrong information. See, I can also understand the frustration. Okay. See, I don't want to. I think there's already a recorder on and all that. So, बंद करें तो फिर I can entertain you more. So, behavior का भी time होगा. I hope there's some beer, samosa. Okay. So, let's just face it. When I get very unhappy, na, I say, joke. See, since you have an NSOP, I mean, you're far smarter than that. Don't get try. So, Judge Simran Jilia, please indeed. So, don't be Simran. And you're flying at some 500 kilometers an hour or something. I mean, even on the road, I cannot tell you, Judge Simran, chala de, jahan gaadi chala. फुटपाथ पे भी चला दे, इधर भी चला दे, उधर से आ रहा है कोई रॉन्ग साइड से भी चला दे, लाल बत्ती पे भी चला दे, अब तो सब फ्री हो गया. ऐसा नहीं, इवन रोड पे क्या geospatial mapping करोगे, there are certain rules which you follow. Rules of the road. You can't just break a red light just because put up court case and the whole government got scared of him. So ऐसा नहीं है. There is a movement of the vehicle which carries the camera and the sensors, and then there is the sensor part, the photography part. The photography part is liberalized. The movement of the vehicle, whether it's ground, naval, or aerial, will still go through permissions because the same airspace is occupied by many more people like you. So, from your safety, because you are a manned aircraft, okay, so for your safety, it is regulated.
That's exactly what I'm
So, I think now we are fully clear, right?
I'm exactly clear about that.
So, what is the doubt?
The doubt is where earlier we had to give the whole area, the flight plans, and where DGCA had to get the permission from MOD for clearance.
That's gone.
That's gone.
That's gone.
So will we still go through that other procedures of what DGCA does?
Okay. For the fourth time now, again I'm repeating. There's a flying part. There's a photography part. For photography, as I mentioned in my earlier speech, or DRI, there was this DRI, right?
Right.
Directorate of Regulations and Information or something. That thing is gone. That thing is gone, redundant, because they were only glorified postmen. They would collect your 7 application forms and send it to MOD. MOD in turn, because see, MOD also wanted some restriction, right? I mean, otherwise, see, MOD's purpose is something else, to protect the nation. They don't want thousands of people lining up. किसी को शादी करनी, किसी को ये करना है, किसी को movie की shooting करनी. I mean, they just wanted कि पहले आप flying का approval ले लो, और जो जिनका flying का approval, those people who are cleared for flying, only they should be brought to us. So they would do it in 2 stages. First, there is the flying permission. So they look into all your licenses and permits, and are they all up to date, this, that, who's the pilot, where will you fly, etc. They'll also send it to airport authority. Okay, the airspace management, ASM as we call it, the airspace management, and find out from them, Kira, is this aerial map not fouling any red zone or no-go areas? Once all that is clear, then they would say, now this is fit to fly and subject to approval from DRI if you want also an aerial photography, because many times people fly without aerial photography. Drones also many times they're used without any aerial photography, right? So in such cases, you don't need to go to DRI. But if you want aerial photography, you have to go to DRI. That clause is gone now. Okay. But flying is still regulated.
I think that's good enough. Let's have some more discussions with Pierre as a facilitator and after 15 or 10 minutes. That will bring a lot more interoperability and standards. So, I know हमने सरकार से भी बात कर ली, व्यापार से भी बात कर ली. Let's hear from Samaj. Jagdish ji, please, you are online. Jagdish is he was the CEO of Foundation for Ecological Security. He works on the ground and he has developed a lot of applications on using geospatial technology at the very ground level. So Jagdish ji, what do you think about these guidelines and how is it going to help you and your organization do your work?
Can you hear me, Sanjay?
Yes.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Living in a village has its own challenges. Your internet always plays up. As you know, and many on the group of the think tank also know, we work with something like 15,000 villages in some 13 million acres of village common lands, forests and pastures and water bodies. And annually, the government of India spends anywhere between 50,000 to 100,000 crores, either from right to employment guarantee or the watershed programs, agriculture development programs on these very lands. What we were really having big problems was on getting spatial data. and that too in a formal legal manner. Now, with these guidelines, that entire gamut of data, inshallah, from Survey of India, from Wildlife Institute, from the Forest Survey of India, and I think I heard the chief of the Central Groundwater Board also talking about data being shared. Now, this would revolutionize the way we grassroots level people actually take informed decision making to supplement the local people's decision making so that groundwater can be harvested. We could be working towards the climate goals which the Prime Minister has set up. There is a land degradation goal which the Prime Minister again has set up. This kind of data is fundamental to provide context based, village based decision making by the rural people. The second point I want to say, and that's the last point actually, I was on this committee of the National Council for Applied Economic Research, which has developed an index for national digitization of land records, an index for that. And in the recent report, which was released about a week ago, there were some very nice developments happening, and the revenue secretaries of Bihar, Orissa, and Madhya Pradesh were talking about exemplary achievements in digitization of land records and improving the quality and in access. The index is showing very high in these three states. Of course, the other states are also catching up. And a couple of the secretaries are also talking about settling Forest Rights Act, which is very important in tribal and Nexal-prone areas, by providing this kind of digital data to them. Now, if such data can be, APIs can be provided of the digitized data by the state, then we can go into precision farming, we could go into improved species restoration or habitat restoration, and equally water conservation. So in a way, this is the beginning of an unlocking of rural India, rural economic growth, a huge potential. If we attach, in one of the panels in that same discussion, we realized that one of the panel members was saying that about a typical household in a village, about about 3/4 of the assets the person owns is actually the house and land. Now, if you are providing good spatial data about house and land, and if that constitutes 75% of that village person's economy, and if we formalize it and bring it into other collaterals, insurance, drinking water supply, then you have rural economy really thriving. That's all I have to share, Sanjay, and thank you very much, group.
Thank you, Jagdish. Thank you very much for presenting your very grassroots, applications and relevance of this geospatial guidelines, which will help a lot of your organizations. I remember during the migration of labor, you were, working day and night, in and out on supporting the government of various applications. So thank you very much for that. We still have another 5 minutes. If there is any last question, yes.
In Coal India,
Please take the microphone. Please take the microphone.
My question is for Ambadube, sir. Suppose in Coal India, we are getting a permission, we are seeking permission for flying drones over the coalfield area. Now, these coalfield areas are leased to Coal India under CBA Act. So we are going to, we want to fly drones there. Now, does this mean that any other party, whoever wants to fly there other than us, should have a separate permission, or they are free to fly, because this area may have certain sensitive information which we would not like to make.
इसमें सर एक बड़ा सिंपल सा टेस्ट हुआ, जो मैं अभी साहब से साथ भी बात कर रहा था, क्या मैं आपकी माइन के जो भी एरिया है उसमें मैं एंटर कर सकता हूँ विदाउट योर परमिशन?
नहीं,
तो बस फिर मैं हवा से भी नहीं आ सकता, मैं हनुमान जी बन के भी वहाँ वो क्या
ओके, तो यही कंफर्मेशन मैं चाह रहा था, मतलब I was looking for this.
I can't enter your premises by foot,
yes,
by land.
Yes,
I can't enter by the aerial or river route or naval route or whatever route.
That's right. I was actually looking for this confirmation because अभी आपने जो बोला,
WhatsApp कर दो, ऐसे दे दूंगा आपको, द्रोणाचार्य में भी नंबर हो, उसमें भी एक WhatsApp कर देते तो दे देता, फालतू पैसे बर्बाद.
Thank you.
Only way to penetrate is the space. Okay. With this, I think I would like to thank each one of you and give the floor to Megha, who will be speaking a lot of thanks on behalf of AGI.
In some time.
Liquid time.
Yes, liquid time. So on behalf of Association of Geospatial Industries and Geospatial Media and Communications, I extend my heartfelt thanks, gratitude to all of you for joining us and for such rich discussions. We've been taking intensive notes and we will be compiling all the questions, clarifications and our inputs, and we'll be providing it to a DST in a organized fashion so that our inputs are reflected in the ultimate policy document that comes out. So yeah, with that, I will not take much time, and I'm standing between you and.
What scary, but not all comments will be.
Yes. Duly filtered comment.
Relevant.
Yeah. So just before we head for the cocktails, we have a message from Mr. Honorable Suresh Prabhuji. He couldn't join us in person, but he has sent a video. So yeah, it's just a 3 minutes 39 seconds video. So let's hear him.
I'm very happy that my friend organized program coincided with another Prime Minister announcing the geospatial policy. I've been associated with this geospatial community for more than 2 years. I recall addressing the first map area program almost 50 years ago. And since then, not only have I participated in the program, but I have enabled growth of industry in my own home region. For example, the government of India, particularly some parts of government of India, were supposed to have a policy for mapping work. Just imagine the technology that was coming up. The maps now can go Google Map and everything. It is somehow the government of the government. So I remember, thanks to the leadership of President Swami John and great Prime Minister to do that, and I had to do that. Prime Minister Modi, the very technology savvy Prime Minister, to believe in technology given the road. Which technology will be an enabler for a common man benefit, not just high-ended technology. So while India has made rapid progress in space technology and has been sending our own mission to all different planets, but using that technology, which is gathered from planets and making different particles analysis, how can it benefit common man? That's the question. And the preoccupation of a brand. I think this is not a geospatial technology, proliferating, deepening, widening, and covering enabling all of that. Today drones, and again I have a good fortune of releasing India's first drone policy as the aviation system of India, under Prime Minister Modi. I feel drones cannot function unless you have a geospatial technology, whether it is GIS, GPS, or other forms of it, cannot function in isolation. Drones cannot fly, drones cannot help collect data or information. They are all geospatial technology immediately. Therefore, today is the time that we organize this program. This is all facets and all aspects of geospatial technology. And in which public talks are relevant. I am really not less about the participate in this program, but I want to convey that this particular medium have full support of this activity. As I said, I have always been participating in this program and I have been playing a little bit modest role of enabling. So please count on me for my full support to take these issues to talk. I will be very happy to work with all of you. And dear Kumar will organize the event. He is a very passionate, dedicated, sincere, genuine person who is standing along with us. So I hope he succeeded along with all of you participating in this successful meeting. All the best.
Thank you. So with this, we conclude our long sessions begin at 1 o'clock. So 6 hours, good amount of work is done. Let's go and
गले सूख गए उनको तर किया जाए. Thank you very much to everyone. Sorry, sir.